For 6,000 years, man has celebrated the power, grace, and mystery of the horse. They have trusted to live alongside us, honoring our many commands. They have joined us in fields of battle. They have pulled our plows and carried us across the plains. And when we ask them to, they run.
And here comes Barbaro!
Barbaro going to remain undefeated.
Tries to pass them all, but he can't pass Barbaro!
Once in a great while, a racehorse will emerge with a majesty and spirit that no one can instill or explain.
Everyone has their model of perfection. Barbaro, to me, looked perfect.
Everything that surrounded this horse was confidence, and then it just ended.
Barbaro is being pulled up! An astonishing development!
Dear Barbaro, the day you hurt your leg, I wish I could have been there. Though I may never meet you, you will always have a special place in my heart.
These animals become like national pets. People feel like he is one of the family.
Animals can sometimes take us to a place we cannot reach by ourselves.
Each mother and their baby was brought out from their stall, and we just stood outside the barn and they'd bring them and walk them around. When he came out, I just remember thinking he was really big and good looking. He had just gigantic long legs and little body, and so you wonder, you know, and hope that his body and legs are going to come together.
Obviously, he was something special above the rest. We like a lot of the others just as well, but he just had something special about him.
He didn't particularly jump out at me and say, yo, I'm going to win the Derby in 2 years. He just walked out as a nice foal, and you'd say, well, we don't want to sell him next year, or, you know, I hope we're keeping him because he looks like a nice foal.
The foal, born in the spring of 2003, needed a name, and owners Roy and Gretchen Jackson found inspiration from an unusual source.
Roy's parents had this picture up in an attic, and we just thought it was such an amazing picture. We brought it home, dusted it off, and it sat around here for a long time before we finally got up on the wall. And when we came to naming Barbaro, here was this picture of 6 heads of 6 foxhounds and their names. And we thought, well, we'll draw upon that. And we just started from right to left, and that's what we did. My mother didn't really like animals as much as my father. I was not introduced to too many animals, but I was sent to a local riding camp, 9 to 3, brown bag it, play baseball in the afternoon or fish in a creek, clean your saddle and bridle, and I just loved it.
Gretchen Jackson's deep love of animals began at an early age. Her husband Roy, born into the prestigious Rockefeller family, grew up in a world of horses and fox hunts. The two would marry in 1959, and following his success in baseball ownership and management, the Philadelphia couple turned their full attention to horse racing.
We bought our first racehorse and just slowly started to have some horses that were running at the track.
Just a few minutes away from the Jacksons' farm, another horseman, a trainer named Michael Matz, was building his own stable of horses.
Occasionally we had some horses in the same race. Usually their horses would beat mine all the time, but they were still very nice and, you know, would say hello because we were neighbors. And they asked one day if I would take a couple horses for them. And they sent Holy Ground, and he was a very nice horse. Gretchen said, wait till you see his little brother. So when Holy Ground's little brother came, he wasn't so little.
Barbaro, he just learned so easily. Every day I got on him, he was better and better. That wasn't just one day or 1 week, that was every day, every week.
He had the speed, and he had the strength, and he had the stamina.
I think he's pretty much what I consider perfect. Barbaro, to me, looked like I wanted to see a racehorse look.
Although he only began riding as a teenager, Mats became a world-class equestrian, representing the United States in 3 Olympic Games. In 1996, his team won a silver medal in show jumping. And he was chosen by his fellow Olympians to carry the flag in the closing ceremony. The honor was for more than just his achievement at the Games. 7 years earlier, Mats had displayed a different kind of heroism.
It's something that happened, and we were lucky enough to survive it. You just feel grateful you're alive and you can go on.
A United Airlines DC-10 attempted an emergency landing late today in Sioux City, Iowa.
It had to be a half hour of terror for those on board.
Mats and his fiancée, Dee Dee, were in a plane that was forced to crash land in an Iowa cornfield.
JB, can you hear me, JB?
3 young children, Jody, Melissa, and Travis Roth, were also on the flight, traveling alone.
We got to the entrance, which was really just the end of the plane. You know, all of a sudden at row 9, it just ended.
The man that was aside of me, I told him before, if something happens bad, I said, we have to get these children out.
Michael told us that we need to run and not to look back.
We held hands and kind of journeyed off through the cornfield.
I had my teddy bear, and so life was completely okay. At 9 years old, everything I had was safe.
I started to go back in looking for Dee Dee, but it was just too dark. It just so happens that the kids, for some reason, they got hooked up with Dee Dee, so it was a big relief to see her after that amount of time.
When we were going to the hospital, they were going to separate us all, and he just said, no, you know, I'm with them, and him and Dee Dee kind of made it feel like we basically had a family.
There probably aren't words that are strong enough to thank someone for helping your children stay children. And that's what we thank Michael for.
I just did what I would hope somebody else would do if it happened with my children.
The distinguished sire Dynaformer was bred to the Jackson's mare La Ville Rouge. Like other sons of the stallion, Barbaro was long, large, and rangy. And by the fall of 2005, Mats felt that the 2-year-old's growing ability was catching up with his growing body.
We waited till October for his first race. We picked out a mile race that was on the turf, and Gretchen came to watch the race at Delaware because she always loved the horse and she wanted to see his first start.
And they're off.
You never know what they're going to do the first time out, no matter how good you think they are. You never know.
And Barbaro from the outside is taken over, leads it by a length and a half.
It was just raw talent. That was all it was just raw ability. He didn't know basically what he was doing. He was just far superior to anything else.
Barbaro's putting on a show here. Barbaro is romping in his debut by about 7 lengths.
The race was just spectacular. That's what you really dream of, having a horse come out and just blow a field away and act like it was relatively easy.
From there, we took him to the Laurel Futurity, which was a pretty big step up.
In the second position is Barbaro, getting right alongside now.
There were stake horses in there, the old professionals, if you like, that have been around, they'd raced, they'd won, and he was a new guy that had won one race, and you know, he's going to have to step up a bit.
Here's Barbaro taking over in the top of the lane, pursued by Diabolical as they swing for home in the Laurel Futurity.
Not only does he win the race, he runs what we call, he runs out of the TV set. I mean, you just can't see the rest of the horses. And at that point, you're starting to think, well, yeah, maybe they have something here.
It's Barbaro dominant to win going away. Barbaro by about 7 at the finish.
Nobody knew how to pronounce his name because we'd taken the name off the feigning. So it was like, what? Are you calling him that, Michael? No. Do you call him that, Gretchen? No, I call him Barbaro, you know. So the excitement of the moment far surpassed worrying about pronunciation.
After he won Laurel Futurity in the second start of his career, I thought that we were seeing, you know, maybe the greatest American turf horse we've ever seen.
Here comes Barbaro to the outside of Mr. Silver as they straighten away in the Tropical Park Derby. Barbaro right up to Mr. Silver and going right on by.
Barbaro went on to win another race on the turf in Florida. By now, Michael Matz had enlisted the help of Edgar Prado, one of the nation's top jockeys.
Barbaro going to remain undefeated, 3 for 3 as he takes the Tropical Park Derby.
With Barbaro's decisive victories on grass, came questions about his potential on the dirt.
And the question of whether he could get the dirt as well as he could get the grass was the one thing that gave people pause about him. He looked like a grass horse. He was bred to run on grass.
Peter and I spoke afterwards and said that, yes, he's very good on turf, but maybe he's better on dirt.
They run to the top of the stretch, and Barbaro and Dr. Deckard are still 1-2.
And the next race was the Holy Bull, and that was so sloppy, it was unbelievable.
And Barbaro leads by a length and a half. Great Point is charging from the back of the pack. Barbaro is in front. Great Point tries to pass them all, but he can't pass Barbaro!
When it came up sloppy in the Holy Bull, people still doubted that he could win on a fast dirt track. Still, he was still a bit of a boy.
Michael Matz did not harbor such doubts, and the decision was made to race Barbaro only once more on the dirt in the months leading up to the Kentucky Derby. The light schedule was considered unorthodox and led some to question Matz's approach.
I didn't think I was doing anything extraordinary by doing this, but the press found it amusing.
They were all over that subject all the time, and as well as a few people would say remarks to me. Wasn't I worried or something? And we weren't. He knew the horse. They didn't.
I felt like I had the blessing from the right people. We wanted to make sure that if he ran good in the Florida Derby, that we'd have a fresh horse for the Kentucky Derby.
3 furlongs to run in the Florida Derby, and Sharp Humor and Barbaro are 1-2. Barbaro puts half ahead in front. Sharp Humor right back at him in second.
In the Florida Derby, it took him a long time to get by the horse that was in front. His action maybe wasn't as smooth on the dirt as it was on grass, but you knew he had something.
It's the first time another horse had come back at him, and he wasn't too sure what he had to do.
Barbaro to the final furlong. He's a neck in front of Sharp Humor, who will not go away.
I could give him a smack, and then he went on and did what he had to do, and he could have backed off and finished second, but he didn't. He went forward, and he was in charge.
Sharp Humor, Barbaro got him. Barbaro wins and remains undefeated on his way to Louisville.
He went into the Florida Derby a boy, and he came out of it a man.
It seems as if all arrows were pointing to Churchill Downs. And I don't think we even thought about options. We were headed to Churchill Downs then. I was walking just one day down the farm to bring some horses in the afternoon, and I was just thinking about Barbaro and could he be that good and all that. And there was this huge rainbow up in the sky, and I thought, oh, well, there is my sign. You know, I love rainbows. There's my sign that this horse is truly special.
Welcome to the Run for the Roses, the 132nd Kentucky Derby. It should be quite a day here in Louisville.
Churchill Downs is that one crucible where you've got to prove it. And you're wondering in the back of your noodle, going to the Kentucky Derby, can this horse go 1.25 miles on the dirt against the best competitors in America?
The second largest Derby crowd ever is here, more than 157,000 in attendance.
You know, there wasn't a lot of Barbaro hype. He was just one of many contenders.
I have never seen a field deeper in talent than this one. I still don't know who's going to be the favorite at post time.
The reality was he'd run 5 times, won 5 times. You knew he was going to be a major factor in the Derby. The question was still, how good was this horse?
He was a little anxious in the saddling area when he got saddled. And it wasn't like he was nervous, it was just like, when it's time to go, you better go.
Hello, Edgar. Thank you.
20 horses completed the field for what is known as the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. The first leg of the vaunted Triple Crown. Among the fans that day were the Roths, survivors of the 1989 plane crash, and no longer children. Going into the race, Barbaro was the second favorite at odds of 6 to 1.
I thought he had a good chance. Gretchen knew he was going to win the Kentucky Derby.
But I knew he was going to win it. I didn't think it, I didn't hope it, I didn't feel it, I knew it.
And they are off in the Kentucky Derby.
When he breaks out of the gate, he pushes so hard behind that he went down and stumbled a little bit when he started, but he's such an athlete that he recovered so fast.
And here's that cavalry charge by us for the first time. And it's Sinister Minister, and Keen Entry comes through on his inside. Sharp Humor runs third to the head for the turn. Showing up as fourth, Barbaro's fifth in between horses.
I was watching Barbaro the entire time because in every one of his races, it had been exactly the same. He had sat second behind a sole leader and run by the horse. Well, that's the easiest trip in horse racing. Now it's going to be 20 horses. Where is he going to be is how he's going to deal with it.
The competition was there, but he was doing everything so easy, you know.
46 seconds flat for the opening half mile, and it is indeed a grueling pace here.
When they're really humming along out there, and the horse that you like is hugging the pace and he's real close, you're wondering, geez, you know, I hope he's not too close. But that horse, it clearly didn't bother him at all.
And around the 38 pole, I saw a couple horses moving inside, making very strong move.
Northern Saint has picked his way through the pack. He's gone on the inside fourth. Barbaro in the clear, poised as they move into the far turn.
I wasn't concerned because when I turned Barbaro loose, I was going to catch him. So I just keep on waiting. I just kind of said, let's go now. He just went.
Here comes Barbaro. The undefeated Barbaro comes up on the outside, and he takes the lead as the field turns.
I look back again. I don't see nobody.
Barbaro turns it on.
It was as though time stood still, and he was the only one going forwards.
This horse explodes in the stretch. The field is nowhere. I mean, they are nowhere.
When he opened up on the field like that, my first thought was for him, just don't fall down or do something stupid.
They're coming to the finish, and it is all Barbaro in a sublime performance. He runs away from them all, and he has saved something left for the Preakness. Barbaro wins by 7.
I just remember my oldest daughter shaking me and said, "You won the Kentucky Derby."
When I crossed the line, I said, this year is going to be the year that we're having the Triple Crown. We really have a champion.
It was really hard to grasp that this is truly happening. That's all I thought about is, good Lord, he's just so great.
We knew what kind of love Michael had put into Barbaro, and so watching Barbaro win was really like watching Michael win.
As a trainer, what you've done before, whether it was unorthodox or whether it was the right thing, when he puts on a performance like that, it's a satisfying feeling.
He got to the Kentucky Derby in brilliant fashion with only 5 races. And you could question him all you wanted about, did the horse have enough? Did the horse have enough? Did the horse have enough? Well, yes, he had enough.
He wanted to keep running. It was like he could have run forever. Now, I've been at every Derby for 20 years. I've never seen anything like this. I'm going, what dimension did this horse go into today?
Roy, Gretchen, there are few events in life after which your life is changed forever. Winning the Kentucky Derby is one of those. Congratulations.
It goes by so quickly that you wish you could rewind a little bit and take it all in again. You are a little bit in shock that this has happened to you. It's like a dream.
And it was an incredible experience, something that we've always dreamt about doing, but never in a zillion years thought we'd ever accomplish. And we'll be forever grateful for that experience.
What shocked me more was the next morning I thought it'd be quiet, but there was more people there and more journalists there than the day before. There's film crews there and basically they just don't leave you alone.
Everybody wanted to see Barbaro. Here he is winning the Kentucky Derby in front of 160, 170,000 people, and a day later he's out in a pasture just letting the sun hit him on the back. He loved it.
With one stunning performance, the undefeated Barbaro had declared himself a potential champion for the ages. The racing world was left to consider what could lie ahead.
I've seen a lot of great racehorses in my life. All the way up through Secretariat, Ruffian, Forgo, Affirm, Spectacular Bid, Seattle Slew. And I'm thinking this horse is knocking on that door, knocking on the door of that pantheon.
No horse had won the Triple Crown, the Derby, Preakness, and Belmont since affirmed in 1978. Suddenly, Barbaro seemed destined to break the 28-year drought.
Personally, I thought he was a cinch to win the Triple Crown. We've seen in recent years almost annual hype for some 3-year-olds. I'm a skeptical guy, but I was convinced that this time we had the real thing. It just seemed that the possibilities for him were just almost boundless.
2 weeks after the Kentucky Derby, the sense of anticipation for the Preakness Stakes had only grown. Barbaro arrived at Pimlico Racecourse fit, strong, and the odds-on favorite to win.
I rode him the morning of the Preakness just the same as we did at the Derby, and everything went to plan.
Peter pulled him up that day and he said, it's going to take a horse with wings to beat him today.
Good luck, everybody. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Thank you.
All signs were go. He looked like $1 million, and there wasn't a doubt in anyone's mind that he shouldn't run and run well that day.
Riders up! Riders up!
He came onto the track and he acted like he owned it.
Who's 6 around here? And you? 6 years old?
If Barbaro had his aesthetic match coming to Pimlico, it was Bernardini.
It was a tough position to be in, knowing that you're going to have to run against Barbaro in the Preakness, and I had a lot of respect for him. I knew Bernardini was up to the challenge, and that was the horse to beat. but you know, you're going in there and just, you know, hoping for the best.
All eyes on post position number 6 as Barbaro leaves from there.
We loaded him in the gate and he was fine in the gate. But he's hear a click from the doors next to him. He thought it was time to go.
In the gate, ready for the start, and Barbaro broke through the barrier. Barbaro broke through the barrier, and that does not bode well for the favorite here.
I don't know why he busted through the gate. He never did it before. Maybe we had him too fresh. I don't know.
It's a bad sign. I had never seen a horse break through the starting gate before a race and then win the race.
Then I was able to pull him up and bring him back. I want to be sure it wasn't no cuts or no injury, you know, that I can see. And it seemed like it was fine.
I walked right through the gates to examine him to be sure there was no trauma to the head, bruised shoulder, and I could see no problem with his mobility, so I deemed him all right to start.
Once again, ready for the start of the 131st Preakness Stakes.
He started dragging his back. He wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. And I said, well, something wrong enough. I just pulled him up right away.
Barbaro! Barbaro! I believe he's being pulled up! Barbaro is being pulled up! An astonishing development here! Barbaro is being pulled up by Edgar Prado. He is out of the race and out of the Triple Crown. He appears to have injured his right rear leg. His right hind leg appears to have been substantially injured. In the meantime, the Preakness field continues on without Barbaro.
I mean, I didn't care about the race or the Triple Crown or anything. I was more concerned about him.
I ran down right away. When we got there, I knew it was pretty bad.
I think your heart drops a little bit. You know, why did this happen? Is that really Barbara doing that? I just didn't know what had happened and was, I'm sure, a little bit in shock.
The only thing I thought of was, you know, the welfare of the horse. What if he had been mortally injured and a decision had to be made to have him put down right then and there? I think I wanted to be part of that.
No one could be certain what caused Barbaro to break down. What was certain was that the powerful athlete Michael Matz had trained so carefully was now crippled and helpless on the track.
Everything that surrounded this horse was confidence. And now we were getting into an area where we didn't know what was going to happen.
And now the field turns for home. Bernardini rolls up to sweet Northern St.
In the midst of a live race, his body coursing with adrenaline, Barbaro displayed a knowing calm.
They wanted to cover his eyes, but I just said, no, leave him. He knows, and he won't move. For a horse to stand there and let another 8 horses gallop by him was amazing.
They held him in such a way that he didn't move and they could go by him without him getting upset.
It's going to be Bernardini to win this Preakness. A bittersweet Preakness it was.
Victory and tragedy lived in the same moment. And Gretchen Jackson expressed her regret to the winning trainer.
She just apologized for taking the excitement away from me that day. And that was a nice thing, you know, the way she said it, but really I was more sorry for her and Barbaro.
You've got 50 cameras lined up down the finish line, ready to take a picture of the winner. Now you've got other press that's running down the inside rail to try and get a picture of Edgar holding the horse or whatever's going on.
I don't know why they want to take pictures of something catastrophic like that, but I mean, you know, I guess they got their job to do as well as us.
You're literally in a life and death struggle with this horse from that point on.
When they brought that shield to put up behind him so people in the stands would not be able to see him. People were fearful that he was going to have to be destroyed.
I think they did it so that he didn't spook from the crowd there and everything, because people were yelling and reacting to the whole situation.
I immediately ran down, got on the two-way. I said, "Hey, Dan, you're down there. What do you need?" And Dan said, "Set up the x-ray. It's bad."
You know, we got him onto the trailer and back to the barn, so that was the important thing.
These animals become like national pets. We human beings reach out emotionally to these horses. These horses become like the center of a Greek tragedy. And when we see them injured like this, we're all part of the chorus, trying to bring them back.
Barbaro, when they took him out in that trailer, he had his ears pricked and he was looking at the crowds. Like he was with it, he was looking at what was going on. It was amazing. That was the sad part. You know, that he still wanted to run, you know. He was still the champion going out.
Everybody have to go on this side, okay?
Down the end. Come on.
They haven't said anything more, so I can't imagine.
I think what they're doing now is assessing the overall impact of that injury to Barbaro's leg and whether or not they're going to be able to save this very beautiful animal.
I literally was crawling around in the straw of his stall underneath him to see if there were any breaks at all in the skin, which is the absolute wrong place to be around a horse. But the horse never made one motion to either endanger himself or to hurt anybody that was in the stall.
I mean, he would look back. The horse would look back, and he knew we were helping him. You know, when we saw that x-ray, it was like Humpty Dumpty. I mean, there were so many shards of bone.
It essentially looked on radiographs like a bag of cracked ice.
Michael Matz was outside the stall talking to Dr. Scott Palmer about where the horse was going to go.
I told him that I thought the radiographs looked like the horse had a catastrophic injury. And we talked a little bit about that and the implications of that, what we could do. And he said, "You better come outside and let's talk to the Jacksons." I explained to them that the only hope that he had for survival was if we could get him to New Bolton Center to have surgery performed to repair the fracture. And so the Jacksons simply said, "Let's do it."
Our immediate task was to get the horse wherever he was going to go.
While they were getting the horse ready to go, I was getting the truck ready to go on the road.
The Pimlico team would have to transport Barbaro to the New Bolton Center, a veterinary facility in Pennsylvania, 80 miles north of the racetrack.
And then once they loaded him, I was in the back with the groom, Eduardo. And he looked upset. The horse was just, he was calm, the horse.
The Baltimore City Police were great. I mean, they had about 6 or 8 Harley Davidsons, and I mean, they had the Baltimore Beltway stopped, and we basically had the Beltway to ourselves. And they took us all the way to the Pennsylvania line.
Every exit was blocked. I mean, to be on the road as quickly as we were, it was amazing.
People were stopped on the overpass and watching us. I mean, we saw some signs.
You had bed sheets hanging over the side, you know, "Good luck, Barbaro, get well." And this is within an hour and a half of the Preakness. People were, you know, giving us the thumbs up. It was, you know, you'll never forget that experience.
Barbaro never made the trip to the winner's circle. Instead, Barbaro now finds himself in the middle of a trip to the new Bolton Center at the University of Pennsylvania.
And just getting him up there safely was the main goal. He shipped well, and that was it. Once he dropped off to a stall, then it was just a long ride back, because then it's out of our hands.
You know, at that point, it was up to New Bolton to do their work.
The night before, you know, I tossed and turned a lot about the, you know, the nature of the injury, but I had a pretty good notion of, you know, what the leg would look like and what we were going to do.
We do not see this severe an injury frequently because of the fact that most horses that suffer this severe an injury are typically put down on the racetrack.
Everybody was just, I just think, uneasy because we just didn't know what was going to happen. Was he going to have to be put down? And we really didn't know anything until Dean got in there and operated what the situation would be.
I was sort of the opinion that, you know, we had a problem if Dean Richardson couldn't do it, because I think that highly of him.
The nearest update is that they are still in surgery, but they are near completion of surgery.
The procedure would take more than 5 hours to complete. The massive injuries to Barbaro's leg required the insertion of a 12-inch titanium plate and 27 screws.
In a lot of ways, orthopedic surgery is glorified carpentry with an understanding of biology and anatomy.
I was horrified, just horrified. How's that going to work? I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime. It looked more apparatus, it looked more screws, nuts, bolts, plates than animal. And yet they say he placed every little bone back where it came from.
When you saw it, it was just like, you were in awe. You're going, wow. There's all this in this horse's leg. And you know, in my own mind, I'm also thinking, boy, this was this beautiful race runner, and you know he's never going to run.
He, at this very moment, is extremely comfortable in the leg. He practically jogged back to his stall. He pulled us back to his stall. So right now he's very happy. He's eating. Things right now are good, but I've been doing this too long to know that day one is the end of things.
Edgar's really one of the big reasons that we even had a chance to save Barbaro. If the horse had dumped him and gone running off, we never would have had even a reasonable chance of trying to save his life.
He didn't give up.
He didn't give up.
He didn't give up. Give up is for quitting. He's not quitting. He's a champion.
Barbaro was not the only champion who would fight to survive a race injury. In 1975, the Great Filly Ruffian was an undefeated 3-year-old facing foolish pleasure in a match race at Belmont Park. The two horses ran just over a quarter of a mile on the back stretch when a crack could be heard from Ruffian's front leg. The right ankle had been smashed.
Ruffian has broken down on the backstretch.
Ruffian broke down, and she had like a 10% chance of surviving this, if that. happening to any other cheaper horse on the racetrack, they'd have put him down immediately. She was under a general anesthetic. When she woke up, she started running and thrashing like this, and she fractured her elbow, and they had to put her down. The situation was not the same with Barbaro as it was with Ruffian. He woke up in a sling underwater. When he started thrashing, he didn't hurt himself.
Unlike in Ruffian's time, a pool recovery system now exists. There are only a handful of such pools in the world. The most advanced of them is at the new Bolton Center.
The horse is put under anesthesia at the beginning, wearing a sling, so they never have to drop to the ground. And then once they're in the sling, they're positioned on the surgery table. And then at the end of the surgery, they're dropped into the pool. Most horses just sit there for a long time. They're perfectly happy floating. So then what you do is you blindfold them, and then you take them back up in the sling, and then move them to a padded stall, and you set them back down to a standing position.
Gretchen gave him some carrots, and he seemed to be doing fine and comfortable. He looked forward to, the carrots and peppermints and treats.
He loves them. He's gonna have rough teeth.
Dear Barbaro, the day you hurt your leg, I wish I could have been there, rubbing your head and keeping you calm. Though I may never meet you, you will always have a special place in my heart. That's really well done. Pretty handwriting.
A lot of time on that.
There was a lot of cards. Here's Montreal. Here's Burbank, California. There's so many here, aren't there? Look at this one. Isn't it cute?
Courageous Mr. Barbaro.
Courageous Mr. Barbaro.
Courageous Mr. Barbaro.
I hope your leg gets better. Good luck for your future. You are a great racehorse.
And she says she's age 9, and I love horses. We've gotten a tremendous amount of things from kids that have been sent to us.
This one.
The one with the teardrop.
Yeah, with the teardrop and Barbaro in the middle of it and all the people in the world crying for him.
There's a wonderful set of pictures that was sent to us from 6th grade in Old Forge, New York. All the kids did an individual picture.
We decided for our own healing and therapy that we would make this illustrated children's book about Barbaro's life.
The colt was named Barbaro. Little did he know that one day the whole world would embrace him.
He won the Kentucky Derby in May of 2006. He became an instant celebrity around the world.
He wore the blanket of roses proudly after his big Derby finish.
Shortly after the start of the Preakness, Barbaro took a bad step.
It was unclear if Barbaro's life could be saved.
It will be a long time before Barbaro can return home to the Jacksons' farm. Perhaps one day in the future, he will be able to watch his own babies frolic in the fields around him.
The whole world wept for Barbaro.
People are compelled by this story because they feel like he is one of the family. If not the immediate family, at least the extended family of this culture. These are animals that have grace, power, courage, and there's something soulful about them.
My hope for him is that he lives a painless life. And whether that means he'll be able to be a stallion, and we're lucky enough to see little Barbaros.
There were those who questioned the extraordinary measures being taken to heal Barbaro. Cynics felt that the Jacksons were trying to save the horse to profit from the stud fees that Barbaro would bring if he could survive and mate.
We don't even know if he was fertile. So to keep him alive with that in mind wouldn't be the reason. And as far as insurance, it would have been easier to just put him down the track. collect the money and go.
They had, big decisions to make, and they had to listen to people, question their motives. That's never easy to take, but they're very, very, just very nice people.
We've lived a fortunate life, and that probably means that I can be more generous about keeping animals around or paying medical bills.
It was just more trying to do the best to save the horse. If he could have been a stud, it would have been just that much more of a bonus.
On June 10th, Edgar Prado will ride the Belmont Stakes on a horse that isn't Barbaro. He says while he will ride with a heavy heart, his career must continue.
Earlier today here at Belmont Park, Barbaro's jockey Edgar Prado was the ceremonial first signee of a giant get-well card.
There was both triumph and misfortune in the weeks following the surgery. The main fracture was healing well, but as casts were changed, hardware replaced and infections treated, a new threat emerged: laminitis, an often fatal disease. It develops in the hooves of large animals when they are forced to bear additional weight on their healthy limbs. By July, that threat had become a reality.
Barbaro's hoof essentially was gone. The bone that's on the inside of the hoof, which is somewhat the equivalent of your nail, now it has to be attached. If it's not attached, it's unbelievably painful.
We got so far, and to have that setback was tough.
I was pretty much prepared to put him down. You have one leg broken, the other leg with laminitis. Poor horse. And said my goodbyes to Barbaro. And all of us were crying. And Barbaro's got his head right up against the bars, looking at us. And you'd never suspect anything was wrong with the horse.
He's looking at you, his ears are perky, and he's got a good look in his eye, and I just said we have to give him, another chance to do this.
Basically, his presence, was the deciding vote. He was looking at us like he had a perfect desire to go on at that point.
Dean was very encouraging that he could control the pain. And he asked if he couldn't just have 10 days, 2 weeks, and see if he couldn't help this horse.
His chances of recovering at this point, I don't want to put a percentage on it, I would say poor. I'd be lying if I said anything other than poor.
You can manage laminitis even when the hoof wall is completely removed, and they can regrow their hoof. But you have to be realistic and understand that there's a chance that things are not going to work out.
The doctor said the prognosis was poor for Barbaro.
The colt has developed potentially serious complications to its injury.
Outpouring of emotion for Barbaro, how fans continue to respond.
His fate has become a national obsession.
And a setback for...
It was all over the news. It was the biggest story in the country. You couldn't help but get attached to it. And people so wanted it to end with a positive ending. So they were following him in his chat groups and the message boards.
And then they pick up the paper the next day or watch TV to see how he's doing. Well, Dr. Richardson's operated again, and he's doing better. Oh, whew. Oh, what a relief.
And people felt like, and I think Gretchen Jackson said it best, it went from being their horse to everybody's horse.
How will that flatten me?
He was pretty close to almost a perfect orthopedic patient in a lot of regards, in that he was very smart about, taking care of himself, lying down the appropriate amount of time. The ability to get up and down with grace. And his most important quality was that he just maintained such a positive attitude, and he really acted upbeat pretty much all the time. The first couple of times he went outside after being locked up for a couple of months at that point, it was really exciting for everybody. Not the least of which probably for Barbaro. There's nothing a horse likes to do better than go out and eat grass. So those were really good times when he was able to go out and walk around, drag you around. I mean, he would rear up at times. He was interested in the cows, the cats, anything else that was outside, the other horses. And those were very good days for him.
Gradual improvement in both of Barbaro's hind legs was encouraging. There was even hope that the horse would be able to leave Pennsylvania for the warmer weather of Kentucky.
The biggest consideration was that he returned to living a life that would be a quality life for a horse. And he almost made it out there. We almost beat the odds.
In January of 2007, nearly 8 months after the Preakness, complications in both hind legs had taken their toll on Barbaro. The setbacks were significant. Damaged tissue was removed from the left hoof as the right leg weakened. More surgery was performed, even as little hope remained.
I don't know how many operations it was, but it was just, at the end it just got too many, and it's like how many times you can get punched in the nose and get back up again. It just went too far. I think Dean was trying everything he could to save the horse, and it just wasn't supposed to be.
It was becoming progressively more difficult to deal with one issue after another. He was just not a happy horse. That was why we decided to put him down.
Dean had called us on the phone the morning we put him down. He just said that it's just, he's had a miserable night, he's not himself, and I think it's time to let him go, something to that effect. And we'd been really thinking it for a while.
We all, said our goodbyes. Sorry. And it was very peaceful.
All of us were together in our affection and our expression of that affection. It was just like a chorus of affirmation for that horse, for his final moments. And there's a beauty in that.
To me, it would be just flat out, churlish to even suggest that it was anything other than a privilege to work on him. So I would never complain about that.
I'd like now for all of us to say a prayer for Barbaro and for all those that have loved him so much. Certainly grief is the price we all pay for love. And I'm sure there are a lot of grieving people, and certainly a lot of contact with me, and I'm so very appreciative of all that.
We like to think that he'd have gone on to win the Triple Crown, but we don't know that. All we can do is speculate and be left with the haunting of his memory. He's one of those kind of horses who will be in history an eternal mystery.
The big situation that arose from this is that he brought everybody together. You know, he did a lot in a small time.
It's going to be a lot of good hope now for the future, for new horses. It's going to bring us together more. It's not all about money. It's about love and affection and care for something that you really love, you know?
My 8-year-old knows Barbaro, knows the story, and all his little friends know that Daddy and his crew helped save Barbaro. I don't know what they're saying now, but we still did that.
I think he's brought a new type of audience to horse racing. Maybe one day they'll see another Barbaro and say, I was there when he won.
There are only 132 people that have won the Kentucky Derby. You know, we're lucky to have had that experience. And there are a lot of positives that came out of the injury. So we're, you know, I think we'll look back and we'll say we're lucky to have had all that experience too.
Is there a downside to living? I mean, part of living is loving. If falling in love with a horse is painful at times, it's worth every moment of pain to love deeply.
This has been a presentation of HBO Sports.